Hello everyone, class is in session. My name is Mr. The Jobber from Cultaholic.com, and it's time to take a look at everything that happened at SummerSlam. But before we do that, it's worth mentioning that we won the predictions contest against WrestleTalk, which means that we get to keep hold of this, we get Ollie Davis's stupid jacket, and also they have to do an embarrassing song and dance routine at Wrestling MediaCon. Details will be down below, I believe, in the description. And also, as you can tell by my lovely gloves, I spent our reactions video dressed as a butler and waiting on the other lads hand and foot. That was a lot of fun, but I've gotten changed back into my usual attire now, so let's just take these off and let's take a look at SummerSlam 2018 Graded. It's worth mentioning that that reactions video isn't out quite yet, but it will be chopped down and put out there within a very short space of time, because our editors, Sam and Richard, and sometimes Adam as well, work very bloody hard, they do. But now, on to the pre-show, and we kick things off with an interesting match between Rusev and Lana against Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina, Vega. To be honest with you, this got the pre-show off to a not the best start for me. I don't like the whole showing massive adverts during the pre-show matches, and this happened on each and every pre-show match of this show, and the adverts really dominated the screen. They were for more important matches, I get that, but the action was so small in the corner I could barely see what was going on, and especially in this match it came during a pretty crucial time. The story before the match was that Aiden English had been kept backstage because he keeps messing stuff up for Rusev and Lana, but even without him appearing there, they still lost. Obviously Almas and Zelina Vega used some heelish mischievousness. Almas distracted Lana, and then Vega did a roll-up and she's so short, she couldn't quite get her feet on the ropes. She eventually did, but it didn't have too much of a bearing on the end on the pinfall. So I'm going to give this a D+. I was quite disappointed. The action was okay, but the advert really took away from things during a key portion of the middle of the match, and the finish was a little bit botched as well, like a semi-botch, a spotch. So yeah, D+, not an awesome start to the pre-show, but hopefully things will pick up. Things did pick up a little bit with the Cruiserweight Championship match between the reigning champion Cedric and the challenger Drew Gulak. Now, this was pretty good, pretty high energy, not a patch on the sort of stuff we see on 205 Live though on a regular basis, but it was okay. But my major problem with it was the finish, which was also a little bit botched. It was another roll-up, the second in two matches, and Cedric had to sort of scramble Drew into position. It didn't look that good, but surprisingly to some people, including us at Cultaholic, who predicted that Drew was going to win, it was actually Cedric who retained this championship. On the whole, I'm going to give this a C-. It was better than the first match, but again, it was kind of spoiled a little bit for me by a huge dirty advert, and also the finish, again, was a little bit botched. And by this point I was thinking, oh god, don't let it be one of those nights for WWE where there's a show that's kind of just riddled with unfortunate errors, and we'll see whether that happened or not as this video progresses. Finally, we had the Raw Tag Team Championship match between the B Team and the Revival, and I don't really know what to give it because it was a strange one. Basically, the B Team lucked into a victory. I enjoyed the Revival's tactics of taking out Curtis Axel early on with the Shadow Machine and Bo Dallas having to kind of fight against the odds 2-on-1 for the vast majority of the match. Then the ending came when Bo Dallas kind of accidentally stumbled back into the two legal men who were in the midst of a roll-up, another roll-up, 3-in-3 matches, and sort of inadvertently turned the tide in Curtis Axel's favour. He toppled Scott Dawson over, Curtis Axel rolled on top of him, 1, 2, 3, and the B Team retained the Raw Tag Team Championship. Again, this match was a pre-show match, therefore it wasn't too exciting or too long really, but that wasn't really the job of the pre-show, but it doesn't lead to high grades particularly, does it? I'm going to give this a C+. I'm worried that it made the Revival look a little bit foolish for my liking, and they are one of my favourite tag teams in the world today, but at the same time, I enjoy when the B Team win, it makes me happy. So I think a C+ is a fair result, just a little bit, just slightly above average, a little bit more than acceptable. Now on to the main show, and we kick things off with the Intercontinental Championship match between Seth Rollins and the champion Dolph Ziggler. Moving fast, muscle mass, ready to fight. Oh yeah. Of course, either man had a big, scary bloke in their corner. Ziggler went for the gigantic Scottish Drew McIntyre, where I don't know why I use Scottish there as a term. He's not only massive, he's Scottish as well, guys. Rollins went for Dean Ambrose, the returning Dean Ambrose, the new short-haired, mean-looking, bulked-up Dean Ambrose, which, led many people, including myself, to think maybe Dean could be turning heel. That's not actually how things panned out, of course, but what we did get was a very, very good opening match. There was a lot of standing around at the start, a lot of mean mugging by Dean and Drew on the outside, I guess, and Ziggler was really trying to grind Rollins down with rest holds and the like, but as the match progressed, things really picked up to a very hot degree. I really enjoyed certain portions of this match. Basically, the latter 2/3 of the match I thought were absolutely excellent, particularly Seth Rollins' ridiculous reverse superplex into a reverse Falcon Arrow, which was insane. I was worried that with all the people involved in this match, there was going to be a bit of overbooking, maybe a bit of an overly complex finish, but that's actually not what we got. We've got a pretty logical and not overly complicated finish. Basically, Dean Ambrose nullified Drew McIntyre on the outside. Usually, Drew would cost Rollins the match in favour of Ziggler, but Dean was there to cut him off, hit him with dirty deeds, and then it didn't, directly help Rollins win. He still had a lot to do himself, but he, did it with aplomb, as he always does. Beat Ziggler to the super kick, hitting a super kick of his own in the nick of time, and followed that up with a big stomp. And now he is the new Intercontinental Champion. For the second time, I believe, he is now a 2-time IC champion. I'm going to give this an A. Originally, I thought, it's a bit of a slow match, I'm not particularly enjoying this, but then I realised it was all part of a larger story. And we don't really penalise New Japan matches when we talk about those for starting off slowly if they evolve into something a bit more epic down the line. And that's exactly what this match did, so yeah, pretty good start to the main portion of the show. Next up, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match between the champions, the Bludgeon Brothers, and the New Day, who won a tournament, of course, on SmackDown for the right to become #1 contenders. It was Xavier and Big E in this match with Kofi on the sidelines, and this was fairly short, especially compared to the previous match, but it was a very enjoyable little sprint. For me, the most memorable spot, there were quite a few memorable spots actually. There were a lot of dives to the outside and that sort of thing, a lot of double team moves. The Bludgeon Brothers came out hot and were really lighting up the New Day, but the New Day had the most memorable spot, as I mentioned, which was Xavier Woods' insane big flying elbow to the outside. And yeah, I thought from that moment on, I was like, the New Day have got this in the bag, they're gonna win and become the new champions. But we got a finish that was a little bit out of left field, but at the same time, I thought it worked all right. Basically, the Bludgeon Brothers got themselves disqualified with Eric Rowan attacking the New Day with one of their big hammers, and then, Luke Harper joining in, and basically the ref waved it off and went, no, stop that right now, you naughty, hairy, large men. So the Bludgeon Brothers keep their titles for now, but I enjoyed it as part of a wider story. I thought that it was nice to see the New Day being the first team to really push the Bludgeon Brothers beyond their limits, and they had to resort to cheap heel tactics, unlike themselves, to really keep a hold of those titles, and hopefully we see it develop more and more down the line. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a B+, despite the slightly screwy finish. In fact, I think the screwy finish was one of those rare occasions where it helped the match. Next up, Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens, and now with Cultaholic in a 1-0 hole, we really needed a win here to drag ourselves back into the predictions contest, and boy, did it go well. Braun Strowman beat Kevin Owens in about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. He absolutely squashed poor Kev. I don't know what to make of this. I was elated because our pick won, but at the same time, Braun Strowman kept the Money in the Bank briefcase, which we expected he would. I couldn't really see them putting it on Owens after investing so much in Strowman over the past year, but at the same time, where does Kevin go from here? And because of that, I don't really know what to give this match at all. Sam, if you could knock up a question mark grade, I'm going to give it a... Next up, the triple threat match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch taking on the reigning champion Carmella. This was excellent. Again, like Ziggler and Rollins, it started off a little bit more slowly, but there was a nice story running throughout, which was Carmella trying to use the other two against each other, and the other two getting more and more annoyed with each other, breaking up each other's submissions and pinfall attempts and that sort of thing. And I think I heard Adam Pacitti mention in the What Happened Now video, check that out if you haven't already, that Carmella really held her own against two of the best women's wrestlers in the world. Carmella's not renowned for her in-ring work, but in this match, she really pulled out all the stops. She even hit a nice tope or lope to the outside at one point, just before Charlotte Flair went up top and hit an insane twisting corkscrew moonsault to the outside, which was wonderful. So yeah, this match was great. I was going to give it like a B+ or an A-, but something happened that bumped it up to an A grade. I'm giving it an A because I thought the post-match stuff was absolutely perfect. First and foremost, Charlotte Flair won with the natural selection when Becky Lynch had Carmella in the disarm her. Charlotte sort of ran in, took advantage of her well-meaning friend once again, and picked up the victory. A fair victory, but a slightly ruthless one from Charlotte Flair as well. Then her and Becky hugged it out afterwards, and the crowd, you could tell, were begging for Becky to snap, and then she did. And whether I've seen mixed opinions about this online. Some people thought it was great. Some people are like, oh, but Becky's a better face than she is a heel. Charlotte's a better heel than she is a face. It should have been the other way around. To be honest, I really enjoy this. I think it refreshes Becky totally, gives her an edge that she maybe was missing a little bit, And if you need further proof that it was the right decision, listen to that crowd pop. It was immense. Next up, AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe for AJ's WWE Championship. Before the match, they both had a little promo where Samoa Joe basically said, oh look, your family's come to watch. Hey Wendy, how's it going? His wife. And AJ went, yeah, my family did come. They came to watch me kick your ass. I'm the phenomenal one. He didn't end the promo like that, but now I kind of wish he had done. Again, this match was another one that started off a little bit slowly and then built and built and built and became more and more intense. And one thing I really liked on this SummerSlam show was the contrast between a series of really quick sort of squash matches, some of which we're still going to talk about later on, and matches which built gradually over time. You couldn't really tell what was going to happen in each match as it came up, so I really enjoyed the pacing of the show on the whole. This match started off okay and really became great, as you could tell the pair share an incredible chemistry from their many years spent in Impact and Ring of Honor and that sort of thing. It was intense, especially towards the end when Samoa Joe grabbed a microphone, stood on the announce table and went, well, AJ's family, I did say that your daddy was coming home, but it looks like he's not in any state to do so, but don't worry, I'll be your new daddy. And the crowd obviously went, whoa. Styles then snapped, the match was still going on by the way, but Styles then snapped, tackled Samoa Joe through into the timekeeper's area and beat him around with a chair. It was very intense and a strange finish, another non-finish to a title match, which usually I wouldn't approve of, but on this show, they were all sort of booked really well. It all made sense, and this is going to lead up to a rematch between the two, obviously, probably at Hell in a Cell. I'm going to give this an A-. Again, a DQ finish would usually lead to a lower grade because I find them quite frustrating, especially in big title matches, but here it worked out really well. And you can sort of afford to do so on a show like SummerSlam with an abundance of title matches. You're not going to get a clean and decisive finish in each and every title match. And I think this was probably on balance the right decision. Are you interested in seeing Styles versus Joe again? I certainly am. Next up for me, probably the weakest segment on the show, but I don't really understand what was going on at all, really. So Elias came out with a guitar, cut a promo on the Brooklyn crowd, said, you're all dirty New Yorkers and that sort of thing. I've never been to New York, I can't pass judgment, but Elias then said, I'm going to play my new song, it's excellent, it's a great song, check it out. Went to play it, the neck of his guitar broke away from the body of it, and he looked really sad and upset. And then he threw the guitar away and kicked his stool over and went to the back, and I was like, he's going to come back with someone, or someone's going to drag him out and jump him, probably Lashley. No, nothing happened, just made Fender look like it makes shoddy guitars. Again, Sam, I'm going to give this a just a what reaction, because I have no idea what this was. I'm assuming that on Monday Night Raw we're going to see like Lashley go, it was me, ha 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 ha, but I honestly don't know. Maybe Elias has just been hitting the gym too much and it didn't. This was weird. I don't know what to make of it at all. Next up, the Miggity Miggity Miz versus Diggity Diggity Daniel Bryan, aka Sweet Beat, in a rap battle. No, it was just a wrestling match. 8 years in the making, actually. And it was okay. I was expecting this to be a little bit better, I think, actually, than it turned out to be, but it was still pretty good. The pair wrestled what was basically an extended TV match, and if it had been on TV, everyone would have been like, yes, what a brilliant SmackDown main event, for example. But on a pay-per-view, it didn't quite do it for me as well as some other matches on the show, but it was still pretty good. Another one of those matches that built slowly up to a big crescendo. Miz was stealing all sorts of Daniel Bryan's moves, and Daniel Bryan was really cutting loose, hulking up, or Daniel Bryaning up, and being a big fiery babyface, as we all know he can be. The finish came when Bryan was battering Miz really on top. Miz rolled to the outside, and Maurice was there, his wife, in the crowd, and she slipped him some brass knuckles. Then Daniel Bryan went for a big suicide dive through the middle ropes. Miz clocked him with the brass knuckle hand. Bryan was knocked unconscious, and Miz covered him for the 1, 2, 3. The referee did not see any foul play, but we did, guys. We certainly did. Disgusting behaviour from Michael. I'm gonna give this a B+. The match, I think, for me was probably a B, but the booking was probably somewhere in the A bracket, maybe an A- or even an A. So blend them together, we get a B+, because I like that this is continuing. I would have been quite disappointed if Bryan had just got a clean win and that was the end of the feud. I think it deserves to go and go and go, and eventually probably blow off at WrestleMania in New York / New Jersey. So yeah, a B+ for this. Not the best thing on the show, but maybe one of the more sensible things on the show, I think. Next up, the match that I think everyone was least excited for on the card, Baron Corbin, or Constable Baron Corbin, versus Finn Balor. And they did, essentially the best they could do with this, which was have Finn come out as the demon and utterly destroy Baron Corbin. I don't know if Baron Corbin even got a move in, really. Finn was in his demon persona, which, as we all know, makes him stronger because paint makes you look cool and feel better about yourself. He won with the coup de grace, and I'm going to give this a B- because honestly, I thought I was going to be giving this a D or even an E. I thought it was going to be a real low point of the show, and they got out of the way. They kept Finn looking strong. Corbin looked like a fool after weeks of being annoying and a dick and a heel. And yeah, it was paint by numbers booking. Paint by numbers, because he was the demon. Paint by numbers booking, but it totally worked. I think in this role, in Graded, in this series, I'm starting to think that I'm an actual teacher, and I'm therefore cracking awful teacher jokes. Next up, the US Championship match between Shinsuke Nakamura and the challenger, Jeffrey Nero Hardy. Brother Nero. What do I say about this? Well, it was one of the more predictable outcomes on the card. I think everyone knew that Hardy, he seems a bit banged up. He's probably going to take a little bit of a break, or at least we kind of hope, before his eventual feud with Randy Orton presumably happens. Or at least, even if he's not taking a break, I think we all knew that Nakamura was far better suited to being a champion right now. It was a strange match in that I did not expect Jeff Hardy to go as full balls to the wall as he did, especially, I think we all know what I'm talking about, that swanton bomb from the ring post onto the apron where we all collectively pooed our pants on behalf of Jeff. Shinsuke took full advantage, slid back in the ring, hit the Kinshasa and retained his title, and then Randy Orton came out to beat up Jeff Hardy and decided, no, not going to do it, and then went to the back. That was really weird. I'm going to give this a C. It would have been a C- or a D+, but I really enjoyed Jeff's effort here, especially that horrible bump on the apron. I think fair play to him. He's earned himself a few extra, grade points in this video, and it was the right decision to have Nakamura retain, and in fairly decisive fashion too. Not too certain what's going on with the Randy Orton stuff, but hopefully we get some answers on Tuesday night. Next up, the big moment in the Cultaholic versus WrestleTalk feud, and really quite a nervous moment for all of us in the office, but in hindsight there was no doubt that Ronda Rousey was going to win. That's right, the Raw Women's Championship match between Rousey, the challenger, and Alexa Bliss, the champion. We had Ronda, WrestleTalk went for Alexa, and we absolutely won. Not only did we win, and not only did Ronda win, but she destroyed Alexa Bliss. Alexa kind of tried to stall and run around the ring and stuff, and did a great job, might I add, of looking utterly terrified by this force of nature before her. It was brilliant heel work from Alexa's part. When a heel realizes, oh, I'm about to get my comeuppance, oh no, I hope I don't get hurt too badly, but she did get hurt. Ronda nailed her with some suplexes and some judo throws, tried to break her arm at one point, and then locked her in the armbar, and Alexa just tippity-tapped out straight away. Natalya came along and celebrated with Ronda, which was a lovely moment, really enjoyed that. The Bella Twins came and celebrated with her, I don't really know what, they were there. And Ronda celebrated with her husband at ringside, and it was just a big happy moment, especially for the lads at Cultaholic. Yes, boys, we've totally done it. Look at my wristband. WrestleTalk can get to. Well done, us. We're the champions. We're the best at predicting wrestling matches on a pay-per-view. Take that, Ollie. Take that, Luke. Take that, El Fakador, mate. I am elated. For this, I'm going to give it, Sam, just give it an A++ or something like that. Give it the biggest one we can possibly give it. Well done, Ronda. We love you so much. In all seriousness, this probably would, I'm giving it an A++, don't worry about that, but I would probably get an A or an A- if I was going to, do it seriously, just because it was the right thing to do, I think. It was a good way of getting the belt on Ronda. I don't mind that she's champion at all. I don't really particularly buy into this argument that she doesn't deserve it compared to the other women, because yes, she hasn't paid her dues as much as everyone else has, but she has such a natural flair for professional wrestling, and the crowd love her. They get behind her like Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's awesome. The win was brief, as it should have been, and emphatic, as it should have been, and I can't wait to see what happens next and who she's going to face at Evolution. And finally, the main event of the evening, the Universal Championship match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Roman's like 55th title shot or something like that, but before the match began, Braun Strowman came out to the ring. We all thought he was going to cash in. He didn't. He said, I'm going to cash in after this match, and I'm standing here to watch at ringside. Then Roman Reigns kind of jumped Brock Lesnar, not before the bell, but at the bell, nailed him with several big Superman punches and a few spears, and then Lesnar caught him in a guillotine, and it was all a bit ropey for Brock, but he fought his way back into the match. He hit an F5 at one point, he took him to Suplex City and all the rest of it. Then the crucial moment came when Roman fought his way back into the match, went for a spear, Brock moved, and Roman hit like an inadvertent suicide dive on Braun Strowman on the outside. Clever Brock Lesnar pressed the advantage, rolled out, hit the F5 on Braun Strowman, rolled back in, and went to deal with Roman Reigns, who just speared him out of nowhere and won the Universal Championship. It was that quick. And because Brock Lesnar had battered Braun Strowman and hurled the Money in the Bank briefcase way over to the other side of the arena, there was no cash in, which felt a little bit cheap considering Braun had promised to, but kind of, I get why they did it. I'm gonna give this a B. Yes, a B. I don't think it was that good an ending to the show, but I think it was probably as good as it could have been without blowing the cash in, which they clearly didn't want to do, and without annoying the fans too much. This was probably, it was kind of like if there's a bad announcement you've got to make, but you make it in the middle of a big lovely fireworks display. There was so much popping off all over the place, I almost kind of forgot that Roman Reigns had won, and, you know, everyone's probably going to hate that. Everyone seemed to sort of forget. They're like, oh, Roman won, but wow, look at this spectacle. So I think that translates to a B. Let's just say that translates to a B. Yeah, well done. Well done, Roman. Well done, Brock. Brock's selling was excellent, by the way. Well done, Brock, actually, yes. And yeah, it gets a B. So on the whole, what does SummerSlam get in terms of a grade? I'm going to give the show, having a little bit more time to think about it, right? I was going to give it an A on the whole. I'm going to give it an A-. I don't think it was quite as consistent as I thought at first glance, but having thought about it, it was still a wonderful show. One of the best SummerSlams in recent memory. I'm going to say probably one of the best SummerSlams ever. Probably a top 5 SummerSlam in my opinion. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but even the stuff that wasn't so good was still eventful and felt massive. So excellent atmosphere for SummerSlam. Maybe the biggest SummerSlam atmosphere ever, or since the golden era at least. And yes, I have no major complaints. I thought this was a damn good crack at putting on a massive Summer Spectacular. So well done, WWE. A- for you. And a whole host of new champions and new storylines to look forward to on Raw and SmackDown. And of course, we will be covering those on Graded, so stay tuned. And also, you know, Ross is doing WTF. We're doing all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a busy week, man. It's going to be such a busy week. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. This has been Graded, and you have been my students. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson in wrestling. And yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do at Jack the Jobber, because all teachers plug their Twitter handles. They probably do these days, to be fair. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and if you want to, you can check out our Patreon too at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, as well, to hit subscribe and to join us.